So U.S. President Donald Trump has extended the ceasefire with Iran, initially set to expire on Wednesday, saying it would continue until Iran's leaders and representatives submit a unified proposal to end the war. For more, we're joined today by Professor Hassan Geon, visiting professor at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Geon, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, U.S. Vice President JD Vance's trip to Pakistan is on hold right now. Where is this war heading?
Actually, I think this war is moving towards a very prolonged negotiation under pressure, not toward a clean peace and not yet back to full escalation. President Trump has extended the ceasefire after a Pakistani request, as we all know about that. At the same time, he's keeping the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports on place. So it's still unclear whether Iran or even Israel will fully accept this extension. So JD Vance had not yet left for Pakistan, and so that tells us that diplomacy is still open, but it's very fragile and incomplete. And not yet mutually trusted. So where is this headed? I would say it's likely toward a very messy intermediate phase, temporary ceasefire, continued coercion, and repeated attempts to test whether talks can produce a narrow framework, or to put it in a nutshell, this is not a peace process in the classic sense. It's a bargaining process in which Washington is trying to impose military leverage on this negotiation. So while Tehran is trying not to negotiate from visible weakness to appear weak while they are negotiating. So that combination can keep war contained for a while, but it's very unstable. The truce would be very shaky.
I see. And some analysts say that for Iranian officials, attending this peace talks under a U.S. naval blockade would be seen as a sign of weakness. So what's your take on Iran's position?
I think that assessment is basically very correct. Iran is not rejecting diplomacy in principle. It's rejecting diplomacy under humiliation or pressure. Tehran could still attend talks in Pakistan, but only if Washington abandons what Iranian officials call it policy of pressure and threat. So Iran wants to blockade this American blockade lifted, and wants the Iranian flagged ship Tosca and its crew to be released first. So from Tehran's perspective, appearing at talks while the blockade continues would look like accepting negotiations on American terms. So that matters politically inside Iran. They have a civilization face to save. Iranian leaders need to preserve some image of resistance, and especially after weeks of war and under ceasefire, they believe the U.S. has already complicated with new pressure. So I understand Iranian opinion about that.
Right. So far, the United States and Iran still appear to be far from reaching a deal. What would a realistic end to this war look like?
A realistic end would probably not be a grand final bargain. As you know, President Trump likes to drop big bombs, whether it's real bombs or diplomatic bombs. He wants to achieve a big score victory. But it would be a phased and limited settlement. The two sides remain far apart on the biggest issues. Iran wants recognition of its authority on the Strait of Hormuz, and they want compensation for war damage, the right to continue uranium enrichment. The United States, by contrast, wants unrestricted shipping through Hormuz, rejects Iranian enrichment, and wants Iran missile capabilities to be sharply reduced. Iran also wants U.S. combat force reduced in the region, while Trump has said military assets will remain until a deal is reached. So they are far apart from each other. So the most realistic outcome would not be total reconciliation. It is something narrower, like a durable ceasefire, partial de-escalation in Hormuz, framework of more talks, and possibly interim nuclear arrangement that freezes the most dangerous elements of without solving this whole nuclear deal. So that kind of outcome would not end hostility between the two countries, but it could lower the risk of another immediate military confrontation. Right now, that is much more realistic than a comprehensive peace agreement.
I see. And Professor Gunn, before I let you go, turning to Israel and Lebanon, the United States says will host a second round of ambassador-level talks on Thursday. And this follows last week's first direct diplomatic meeting between these two countries in decades. How might the meeting unfold this week?
I would expect the meeting to be just practical, cautious, and limited in ambition. The second round will take place at the U.S. State Department on Thursday, after Marco Rubio hosted the first direct Israel-Lebanon talks in decades in April 14th. So this new round comes just after 10 days ceasefire took place. So immediate goal is likely to be just crisis management, preventing the truce from collapsing. So clarifying the red lines and testing whether the parties, these two parties, Israel and Lebanon, can move from the battlefield to a diplomatic field. But the talks will unfold under very difficult conditions. As we all know, Hezbollah has fired rockets and drones into northern Israel this week, accusing Israel of violation of the ceasefire, while Israel also says Hezbollah violated the truce. So at the same time, Israel forces remain deployed inside Lebanon for like 10 kilometers, and they call it a buffer zone. If you know, Israel has already tried to occupy southern Lebanon 6 times in the past 50 years. So it's not the first time, it will not be the last time. So that means the diplomacy is happening while the military dispute is still active. So the likely result of this meeting is not historic breakthrough. More likely it's some steps, efforts to preserve ceasefire, manage violations, define agendas for more talks. So deeper dispute is still unresolved. Lebanon side is focused on Israel withdrawal and restoring full sovereignty on southern Lebanon, but Israel focused on disarmament, fully disarmament of Hezbollah, whether it is military or diplomatically. So I think as long as those objectives are still far apart, Washington rule will be less about imposing final agreement and more about stopping another war, another regional war.
Right, I guess we'll have to see how that meeting plays out this week. All right, Professor Gon, thank you so much for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.